One of our major advantages. I think that's the greatest decision that I was a part of, because if not, we would probably be in a worse case right now. I'm thankful that we allowed these cell sites to be installed. I'd like to think and hope that all hospitals have that. We have not had any case of cancer regarding cell sites. As a matter of fact, we employ many cell sites and many boosters inside the hospital. For us, it has saved lives.
May I present to you the most liberated of presidential daughters, the most progressive, I suppose, the former governor of Ilocos Norte, former representative of the 2nd District of Ilocos Norte, a famous mother of famous children, and she is also, of course, a famous daughter of a famous mother. We're referring to Mrs. Marcos, of course. And in her earlier years, our guest was a young mover and shaker in the world of television and cinema. The youth movement known as Kabataang Barangay, and the original muse of the LGBTQ plus community. May I present to you Senator Maria Imelda Josefa Romualdez Marcos, but we all know her as Senator IMEE Marcos.
Senator, welcome to the show, Spotlight.
Oh, hindi siya naririnig.
Hello. We need your audio. Hello.
Okay. Hi, hello everyone, I'm here.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Welcome. And so we were earlier we asked you a question about your life in the Senate, about being a legislator, and you said you can't remember saying that you prefer to be a legislator than a local chief executive. So tell us more about that again, please.
Yeah, maybe okay lang both at the end of the day. Kasi, I don't know, at that time, it was very hard to adjust to provincial life. I never lived in Ilocos. My dad was congressman when I was born, so lagi kaming nasa Maynila. Pero ang totoo, ngayon, mas enjoy ako dito sa probinsya. Kaya, unang pagkakataon, takbo na kami sa probinsya kaagad.
Opo. Ma'am, you're the chair of the Cultural Communities, ano po? Committee on Cultural Communities. Kumusta
Yes,
po?
that's correct.
Kumusta po ang ating cultural communities? What are you doing for their welfare and development? Ano po ang anong programa ninyo para sa cultural communities?
Well, the reality is our cultural communities are very often the poorest, the most marginalized, living in very remote, undeveloped areas. So talagang kulang na kulang ang tulong natin sa kanila. We have to ratchet up our help for them. Nababalitaan lang natin pag nagkakagulo sa mga issue katulad ng Kaliwa Dam, for example, or yung mga pinagsasara ng mga lumad schools na linusob ng NPA. Pag nagkakagulo, tsaka lang natin naaalala. That's really the problem. I think we have to have a more thoroughgoing, a better plan, cultural community strategy. I also think that it's important that we maintain the cultural heritage that is still more or less intact with them. Dahil yun yung ating tunay na pagiging Pilipino. If there is an identity crisis and we're not certain what Filipino means, the answer will be with the cultural communities.
I agree, no? Kasi very unclear sa iba.
Yeah. So
dito sa Norte kasi, in fact, yung pinakamaraming cultural community sa Mindanao, sila talaga ang namamayagpag. The Lumads, for example, and all the various tribes who are all over Mindanao. And I believe that in the Cordillera also, here in Northern Luzon, we have the next most number marami rin sila, and they were largely unfazed or untouched by the imperial power. So it's very, very interesting to see how they evolved. Kaya nga lang, right now, for example, there's a looming water shortage. Despite the fact na ulan ng ulan, may water shortage kasi yung Angat problematic.
Yeah.
Kulang na kulang daw, ilang metro naman ang shortage. Subalit, ang sabi nila, ang tanging solusyon ay Kaliwa Dam na panahon pa ng tatay ko, naririnig ko na yun. Parang wala nang katapusan yan eh. But now, there's an issue with the Dumagats living in Rizal, in Quezon Province. And sana naman, maayos din natin ang lahat na yan. Para magkaroon ng additional supply sa Metro Manila. But at the same time, that our IPs get their fair share of development, of progress, and the rights to their ancestral domain.
Yeah. Have they been getting enough protection this pandemic, do you think?
No, they're always the most vulnerable group. Unang-una, hindi naman sila naaabutan. At the same time, baka naman they're the luckiest group kasi hindi naman sila makikipagsaksiksikan dito sa syudad. Nasa tutok ng punto. Kung physical isolation lang ang pinag-uusapan, di
the best.
Ayos sila kasi layo talaga. Hindi mo talaga maabot.
Senator, kanina you were saying that you were hiding in Ilocos Norte when the pandemic hit. So let's go back. I want to sana talk about a little bit about your time as governor of Ilocos Norte. What do you think were your greatest contributions at that time when you were the leader?
In Ilocos?
Yes.
Well, of course, I'm proudest of the fact that we brought the poverty level down, way down, and we managed to bring it to single digit and less, much lower unemployment and underemployment. So there was a level of luck, obviously, involved. We had all sorts of programs. I was hoping that the BPOs, the call centers would come. And nagkataon may fallout pa rin yung US 2008 subprime crisis. So as a result, they were very hesitant to expand. But I got really lucky. Yung aming alachamba, na buko-buko, na tourism effort, nung pumunta sina Jojo at yung iba pang mga writers, yung tourism effort namin na paway kumakaway, pumatok naman kaagad. So we were very surprised, actually, a little bit unprepared for the crowds that suddenly came to Ilocos Norte virtually overnight.
Oo nga.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Tulad kami, nakachamba yun jackpot talaga yun. At yung tourism namin, since we don't really have very many large resorts or five-star hotels, all this big-time infrastructure, it's a very grassroots sort of tourism and had begun to benefit everyone from the bottom up. So nakakatuwa naman kasi pati yung mga barangay, nagbibigay sila ng, nagpapaupa sila ng mga kwarto sa tabi ng dagat. Tapos may glamping pa kami sa tutok ng putok. Sa dam. Wala naman talagang ka-hotel-hotel dito, kulang na kulang.
Magandang glamping.
Pero mabuti na lang, swak sa uso ng millennial. Kasi unang kesa sa akin na malaman itong mga lugar na to. At kayang-kaya ng katawan nila kahit walang mga banyo, walang maayos na kwarto, okay lang. Yeah, we got really lucky. I was completely surprised. And the Ilocanos were quite reserved and perhaps apparently unwelcoming. In fact, changed their minds about tourism and were very happy to show off the province. We're very proud of being Ilocano. And as a result, they were perfectly happy to show off the province. And we were so surprised, the things that we take for granted, all the greenery, a lot of trees, mountains that are still intact, and
I love those.
Beaches, the waterfalls, the caves, that we thought were just an ordinary weekend excursion. Big deal pala sa mga taga Manila. So,
yes.
Something new.
For us also.
Senator. Senator, can we go back to to the time that your father was president. At that time, kayo ang rebelde daw, sabi nila. And you even said that Malacanang was a snake pit. Ano ho? If you were to go back in time, what would you advise your father? What should he have continued and what should he have not done? What would you have told him?
I don't know. It's a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
What did I tell him? I mean, very hard to remember. I don't know. I think I would have told him not to get sick, firstly.
Yeah.
Dahil kasi, things were very, very centralized in his person. And when he fell ill, it was very, very difficult to carry on. I think the issue of presidential health has become central to so much of the speculation and intrigue lately. How sick is President Duterte?
Yeah.
And I wish they'd stop, seriously. But things have changed, and as we saw with the Prime Minister of Japan, he came forward and said that he was too sick to govern, particularly during a crisis. And I think things have changed indeed, that people in fact want more transparency and accountability, and it's important that we see this, and leaders are aware of this. I think all this talk of revolutionary government and so on, swirling around the issues about the president's health, when we see him all the time, nagmumura pa rin, mahaba pa rin ang diskurso, ewan ko ba, ano bang gusto nila mangyari talaga?
Yeah. Senator, it was your father who started the diplomatic relations with China. Ano po? Nagumpisa yung ating
good relations.
Yeah, with China. What can you say about Philippine-China relations today? Ano po ang stand ninyo considering the issues?
Yes, although my father started in the 70s, the reality is that China today is nothing like China was in 1973. It's a completely different country. It's no doubt one of the superpowers, if not the number one superpower. I think post-COVID, there's going to be a new balance of power. I mean, clearly, China's recovered. It's actually posting positive growth, whereas in the United States, there's the tragedy of deaths, of continuous infection, of uncontrolled COVID transmission. So I suspect that China will become a real contender. As it is today, it'll be the number one contender even sooner than it was expected. I believe in President Duterte's independent Philippine policy, and I think it's absolutely right that we should be friends with everyone. We shouldn't side with the US versus China or otherwise. Kapag nag-away ang malalaking superpowers, it's best that we step aside or get out of the way, or certainly find a modus vivendi with both. Hindi naman nating ugali makipag-away, makipagbasag ulo, miski kanino, and remain friends and close allies, especially with those in ASEAN, in the ASEAN region. Southeast Asia has become a genuine powerhouse in economics and thus in politics. And as a result, we will take strength from the ASEAN numbers.
Ako naman, my question, Senator, has to do with your own accomplishments as a presidential daughter before. Three things come to mind kasi the entertainment factor, di ba? There was the experimental cinema of the Philippines, and then there was yung television shows, and then there was Kabataang Barangay. So we noticed that it was all geared toward the young. So what made you come up with those projects at that time, and are they still a big concern for you today?
Well, I think firstly, I was really young at that point in time. I was really young. So by the time I left for the U.S., I was 19 years old. So I was really a kid, and I was looking for company, I guess, for other Filipino youth leaders and village heads and all these friends that became my close associates until today. Many of them are still barkada, no? They're still katropa hanggang ngayon. And I see them. It was fun, actually. Last year, when I was campaigning for Senate, I saw so many of the Kabataang Barangay. Many of them are governors, mayors, congressmen. They're all over the place. Some of them are not in the elected side, but in government positions. So it's fun. It's fun to see all my old friends again. And I think that the compelling factor regarding communication was really how to get across to young people. Yeah. Today, that remains the challenge for government, and there are mixed reviews on the exploitation of social media by all sides of the political fence. But the truth is, we really need to communicate, and certainly the millennials are the best informed generation we've ever seen.
Yeah, that's true. Senator, pag-usapan natin you're being a daughter of Mrs. Marcos. So how was it like being a daughter of a fabulous woman? And on the other hand, how are you as a mother today to these kids, to Borgie and Kaya ba?
Yeah, You asked a question earlier about the creatives, no? The experimental cinema of the Philippines. The artistic creative side is very much my mother's side. It's her heritage from the Romualdez side. Her uncle was the Supreme Court Justice, but closer to his heart, he was a musicologist, and he did all the collections for the original Filipino folk songs from all the from all the provinces and regions. So they like to do that. Everyone's a musician, more or less, in the Romualdez side of the family. On the other hand, my father always had tremendous respect for the power of film. He got into a very unusual controversy during his run for the presidency the first time. And what happened was someone pictures Doc Perez determined to make a biography, a biographical film of him, of his life, which no doubt is very interesting because he got charged for murder, he was jailed, he topped the bar while he was in jail, he then went to war, disappeared for many years, became resurfaced in the Death March, was the most decorated Filipino soldier under the U.S., and then entered politics, and on and on and on. No? So Doc Perez, having a very cinematic mind, said that, why don't we just make a film? And my dad, not thinking too hard about it, said, yeah, whatever, let's do it. And because the old man was so nice. So not thinking so hard, my dad didn't realize that it would become such a huge issue in the presidential campaign. And the administration at that time of President Pacapagal slapped a court case and derived the TRO. So nung pagbukas ng sine on premiere night, hindi mapalabas. So, alam mo naman Pilipino, talagang pasaway tayo sa ganyan.
All the more.
Kapag pinagbawalan, di syempre lahat nagsiksikan, kailangan yung sine, and the rest is history. My father won. He thought that the big part of it was the telling of his story through film. And as a result, he always felt that Filipino movies were an undervalued asset of ours, because Filipinos are great storytellers and have really unique and compelling stories to tell the world. So there was also the very real economic impact of the film industry at that point. We were the third largest producer of movies at that time. So after, I think it was India and Russia, the US, Philippines na yung pinakamarami. So it was a real major industry. We also had quite a bit of the outsourcing from LA and Hollywood because music scoring and other films were being shot here, as you know. So malaking bagay yung film industry at that time. And the film is just like tourism, has a huge multiplier effect. And jobs cascade from the direct hires all the way down to the suppliers, the contractors, the wardrobe mistresses, the session musicians, the sound stages, filmmakers, the crew. So many people are involved in the making of film.
Yeah, but that has been so affected this pandemic now that they can't shoot as they did before. Which brings me to the next question, Senator. How have you been coping in this pandemic?
Actually, I feel a little bit guilty because I suddenly see my children. You asked a question earlier about my children. Hindi kami nagkikita-kita. It's so difficult, you know. Borg is very busy. I have a son, the second son who's married to Cara Manglapus, is Attorney Michael, and he's always working overtime and at very strange hours because he works for an American firm. And then there's my son who's out in Ilocos while I'm in the Senate in Manila. So halos hindi kami nakikita-kita. Biglang nagka-pandemic, lahat naglanding dito sa Ilocos, sa nervyos namin, nagsiuwian. So it's a nice reunion. We haven't spent this much time in many, many years. And it's only now that everyone's going back to where they work and going back to Manila. So it's been a good time in that sense, although very, very difficult for us as well as for others. I can't see my mom, so that's a real problem. Bongbong got sick. We couldn't visit him. That's also huge. And one of the nephews passed away. It's been tough, and you cannot visit, no? Mahirap kasi talaga yun eh.
Ibang-iba talaga.
Senator, how are you with the LGBTQ plus community today?
Actually, just the other day, we were talking about the SOGI bill with Geraldine, Congresswoman Geraldine from Bataan, no? We were talking about our frustrations with the SOGI bill, and Risa Ontiveros has been fighting it out in the Senate for so long. Geraldine has gotten so much flack in Congress. Hirap eh. It's been really hard. At the same time, also in the cultural communities, for some reason, it ended up with me. There's a universal equal opportunity non-discrimination bill that's pending in the community, in the cultural communities. Kasi kasama doon, shotgun yun eh. Everybody's included. Women, aged, tribes and IPs and the cultural communities, LGBTQ+, and so on and so forth. Lahat samut-sari nasa isang bill. So that's pending with me in the cultural communities, and that's perceived to be the compromise position. Kapag hindi nakalusot at maraming objection masyado sa LGBTQ anti-discrimination, parang yun ang fallback. It's not the ideal situation, but sabihin na lang natin na step by step ito on a long road. First step.
You know, Jojo, I feel like I can throw questions at Senator and she can answer me with all this.
Yeah, with all. Yeah.
We really admire the way your mind works.
Yeah.
And
brilliant.
Brilliant.
Kabog.
So naisip namin, like, what have you been reading over this pandemic?
Okay. Yeah, over this pandemic, well, on one side, kasi I am the head of economic affairs, and I don't think economics is my strong suit. But I think the Senate President, I will thank him forever, because Senate President Soto assigned me to economic affairs.
Wow.
Which I didn't really think I was qualified for. Pero, ang maganda doon is kicking me out of my comfort zone and compelling me to read economics all over again. So, mabuti naman yun kasi yung mga memorize mo na, kung napunta ako sa, sabihin natin, yung sakit ng ulo rito sa Ilocos, agriculture, alam ko na yun eh. Yung mga Maraming problema ron, pero kahit papano, nakakapamo. Itong economics, talagang sakit sa ulo. And particularly today, because we are confronted with the pandemic fallout, I'm reading all these dreadful recession literature from Stiglitz and Paul Krugman, Ben Bernanke. Biglang review. Funnily enough, Ben Bernanke was my teacher in Princeton. So, bingin-bingi na ako dun sa mga depression, recession, economics. Parang, so that's on one side. Pero pag masyado na akong nalulungkot, yung mga biography, lahat ng biography, naka-biography festival naman ako ngayon. So kung ano-anong binabasa kong biography, tawan-tawa ako sa mga iba. Some are really funny. There are radio commentators, humor ones, of course, yung Steve Martin, nakakatuwa. Then yung mga Stephen King, yung on writing. Maganda yun. It's so
that's very good.
Then yung, may mga bago rin, marami rin bago. Siyempre, yung Michelle, yung Becoming. Pero pinaka-favorite ko yung mga na-discover ko na luma pero okay. At saka rereading some, yung Che Guevara all over again. Matagal na yun. At saka yung mga Malcolm X, kasi siyempre, nauso na naman yung Black Lives Matter. At nabasa ko pa yun college yata. Tagal na. So, it's really precious.
On that happy note,
Yes, on that happy note, we'd like to ask one more question.
Okay. Yeah.
So, when you read and you relax at home, what do you like to wear or to surround yourself with?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm here in Ilocos. Wala nga akong damit dito Lahat ng pang-Senate ko wala. Kaya kung ano-ano, sabi nga nila, may new normal, meron new formal. So basta decente yung itaas mo, ayos na. Tapos naka-shorts, naka-pangbahay, mga kung ano-anong pantalon at sinelas. But now it's beginning to rain. Hindi na pwede yung duster at shorts at maginaw na Lamig
Senator, who made your dress? Ang ganda.
Nako, ewan ko. I think isa't kalahating mga ukay-ukay dito sa Ilocos. Yung damit ko ngayon karamihan na pang-formal, nasa Maynila. So, yung mga leftover na pang-governor, tumataba ako rito So, hindi na nagkakasya yung iba. Kung ano-ano na lang. Yung mga inabel, walang kamatayang inabel ng Ilocos.
Maganda.
Oo, maswerte kami. Ang dami namin tela So, hindi problema yung tela.
Jojo, I regret to say, and Senator, we wish we had a lot more time to ask you questions because we'd really like to know more about what you think about so many issues in the Philippines today. But
yes, I actually wanted to make a pitch for something.
Please, Senator.
Well, there's so many things to talk about, like you said, but yung pinaka-urgent, because we've just passed the Bayanihan 2 bill, unang-una, managing expectations, I think Jack Ma is spot on. Survival during this year means you're doing great. So, wag natin asahan na yung economic stimulus o recovery ang magagawa ng ating mga batas. Kasi kulang talaga yung pera. Kaya yung 140 billion na pinasa sa Bayanihan 2, talagang pahirapan. After which, pera na naman ang pag-uusapan dahil papasok na naman tayo sa budget season. Yung national budget ng 2021. Naku, naubos kasi yung 2020 sa COVID. So my deepest concern right now is how to come up with a national jobs policy. Takot na takot ako sa mga na nawalan ng trabaho kasi kahit yung hindi mahirap dati hirap na ngayon dahil nawalan nga ng trabaho and I know among the creative and art sector that's been intense. Ganon din sa ating tourism and it's been really bad. Hindi ko natitiis yung ating mga tricycle and jeepney driver na nagmamalimos na lang sa kalsada. So I'm hopeful that we'll have a jobs policy very soon. I'm hoping that government becomes more activist and intervenes in the most direct possible manner by becoming the employer, direct employer. Kasi yun nga, sa kakaaral nitong mga depressing economics, nakita natin in the 1930s, during the Great Depression in the US, President Roosevelt started his work brigades that built the infrastructure in the US that until today is useful, and even hired creatives and writers like Sol Bello and Richard Wright to write travelogues and brochures so that they would be employed. I'm thinking that we should do the same thing. We have some kind of experience in that. I don't know yung mga gurang na kami, baka hindi na nalalaman ng mga bagets. Pero si Jojo baka naalala pa yung Metro 8.
Ay, of course.
Mga ginang ng tahanan na kinain ng nanay ko na maglinis sa Metro Manila so they pay para hindi naman zero yung income ng pamilya. And ang sipag-sipag nila na pati yung flooding sa Metro Manila nabawasan kasi at last yung mga
malinis.
Nalinisan. So it's something like that, direct employment at the same time, yun rin ang ginagawa ng tatay ko noon. Binibigay yung mga unsettled, uncultivated areas in Palawan, Nara, Palawan, for example, or in Cotabato and in Davao, and they finally got settled. So I think there are efforts like that through the Balik Provincia, efforts also in the Cash for Work of DSWD, Tupad, under Dole. Sana we put all these initiatives together and create a more coherent, expansive, and strategic jobs policy. Tropa, trabaho sa oras ng pandemya.
Okay. Nice.
Gawin na natin ito dahil ang taong gutom ay walang sinasanto.
Tama.
So
yes, on that hopeful note, I just want to say that I think we're very lucky to have somebody who's thinking of all these concerns for our job.
Ay, may solusyon. Lahat yan may solusyon. Pipilitin lang natin may solusyon.
Yes. So, Senator, thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us today. And would like to say thank you also to all our viewers on Spotlight. Again, this has been Dinah Ventura.
This is Jojo Silvestre.
And this has been Spotlight. Good afternoon.
Salamat
Thank you
po.
very much and come to Ilocos.
Yay!
Opo. Salamat po.
Salamat.
Thank you.
Catch the latest news on our website tribune.net.ph and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, Tribune Now. The Daily Tribune is one with the nation in facing the COVID-19 crisis, and in line with this, the Daily Tribune digital edition and press reader is now available for free online. You can also download the Daily Tribune app on Apple Store for iOS users and Google Play for Android users to get the latest and most comprehensive news online. Daily Tribune is also inviting everyone to join its community Viber Katribu to get updates on the freshest and hottest news and entertainment stories of the day. Tarcito emoticons are also available on our community Viber. Just click on the link in this video to join.
Ang Philippine Offshore Gaming Operators o POGO ay isang legitimate business entity na nagbibigay serbisyo sa offshore gaming para lamang sa mga manlalarong nasa abroad sa pamamagitan ng internet. Ang mga serbisyong handog nito ay katulad ng casino games at sports betting na pwedeng laruin kahit wala sa casino. Sa Pilipinas, walang POGO operators. Tanging POGO service providers lamang dahil nagaganap ang mga laro sa labas ng bansa.